The Raiders just wrapped up their mandatory minicamp, and let me tell you something. This roster is about to get a whole lot smaller. That means guys who were safe last year, they might not even make it to week 1. Now here's what I want you to think about as we go through this. Which of these potential cuts do you think would actually help another team? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because some of these moves could come back to haunt Vegas. What's up, buddies? Welcome back. If you are new here, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We cover all Raiders news here on this channel. Let's start with the most obvious one, and honestly, the guy I'm most confident gets cut, Thayer Munford. This one hurts because I actually liked what he showed as a 7th round pick in his rookie year. He stepped in at both tackle spots and looked serviceable. But here's the thing. Serviceable doesn't cut it when you're fighting for the 8th or 9th offensive line spot. DJ Glaze took that right tackle job and ran with it. Munford got hurt, lost his spot, and now they've moved him inside to guard. That tells you everything you need to know about where he stands. When a team moves you from your natural position, you're already on thin ice. Look at the math here. Colton Miller's locked in at left tackle. Jackson Powers-Johnson is your center. You've got 2 rookie guards in Caleb Rogers and Charles Grant. That's 4 spots right there. Then you add Alex Kappa and Dylan Parham at the guard spots. DJ Glaze at right tackle makes 7. If they keep 8 offensive linemen, which is pretty standard, that leaves 1 spot. 1 spot for Munford, Dalton Wagner, Will Putnam, Jordan Meredith, and whoever else they like. The problem for Munford is he doesn't have that center flexibility that guys like Meredith bring. In today's NFL, versatility is everything. If you can't play multiple positions, you better be damn good at the one you do play. The Raiders have shown they'll cut bait on injured players. Look at Nate Hobbs. They let him walk partially because of availability concerns. If John Spytek values durability, and he clearly does, then Munford's injury history becomes a massive red flag. Next up is Tommy Eichenberg, and this one might surprise some people. 5th round pick, linebacker, should be safe, right? Wrong. This new regime didn't draft him, and they've completely overhauled the linebacker room. They brought in Elandon Roberts, Jermaine Pratt, Devin White, and Jalen Smith. That's 4 veteran linebackers they specifically chose to add. Then you draft Cody Lindenberg in the 7th round. He might be a late pick, but he's their pick. You've got Amari Gaynor, who looked way better than Eichenberg in preseason last year. That's 6 linebackers, and most teams don't carry more than 5 or 6. Here's the brutal truth about Eichenberg. He hasn't shown anything that screams NFL linebacker. His biggest value is special teams, but you can find special teams players anywhere. They don't need to be 5th round picks. When you're playing mostly nickel defense, you need linebackers who can either rush the passer or cover in space. Eichenberg doesn't really do either at a high level. The versatility factor kills him here too. Guys like Gaynor and Lindenberg can line up on the edge and rush the passer. Eichenberg is stuck in that traditional linebacker role that's becoming less valuable every year. Unless he makes a massive leap in training camp, I think he's gone. Now, we get to Dylan Parham, and this one genuinely pisses me off. Not because he should be cut, but because the Raiders have completely mishandled his development. They drafted him as a right guard, moved him to left guard, then back to right guard, now back to left guard again. You can't develop a young lineman when you're constantly moving him around, but here's the real issue. The guy can't stay healthy. He's hurt right now, missed time in minicamp, and has had injury issues throughout his career. Spytek clearly values availability, and Parham just isn't available enough. The talent is there. I still think Parham could be a quality starter for 8 to 10 years if he could just stay on the field. But the Raiders have depth at guard now with Kappa, the rookies, and other options. If Parham gets hurt again in training camp or preseason, I think they'll just cut him loose rather than deal with the headache. Think about it from a roster construction standpoint. Do you want to count on a guard who's missed significant time in each of his first 2 seasons? Or do you go with healthier options, even if they might not have the same ceiling? With a new coaching staff trying to establish credibility, I think they choose reliability over upside. Dekamarion Richardson is next, and this might be the most controversial one. 4th round pick, 6'3", athletic corner. Seems like a keeper, right? But I watched his tape from last year, and it was rough. Really rough. Like, how did this guy get drafted in the 4th round rough? The cornerback room is actually pretty crowded now. Eric Stokes is penciled in as a starter. Darian Porter's taken first-team reps. Lonnie Johnson Jr. brings safety corner versatility. You've got Jacorian Bennett, who I think has real potential. Isaiah Polamau and Jeremy Chin can play that big nickel role. Then you factor in the UDFAs they brought in. Greedy Vance, Mello Dotson, John Humphrey. These guys are hungry and didn't cost a fourth-round pick. Sometimes undrafted players outperform draft picks because they know they have to earn everything. The gap between Richardson and Porter is telling. They were drafted pretty close together, but Porter's already getting first-team reps while Richardson is fighting for his roster life. That's not a good sign for a guy who was supposed to be part of the long-term solution. Pete Carroll's history suggests he's not afraid to move players around. He'll take a safety and make him a slot corner full-time. He'll find ways to use athletic players, even if they weren't good at their original position. If Carroll doesn't see anything in Richardson that he can work with, that's probably it for him. Finally, let's talk about the running back situation, because I think both Zamir White and Dylan Loeb are in serious trouble. The Raiders completely overhauled this position, and for good reason. It was arguably their worst position group last year. They brought in Raheem Mostert, who people are calling old and washed, but he had 18 touchdowns 2 years ago and knows the wide zone scheme perfectly. That's exactly what Chip Kelly wants to run. Then they draft Ashton Jeanty, who's obviously going to be a key piece. Sincere McCormick is the wild card here. When healthy, he's looked better than both White and Lobb. He's more explosive, better in space, and fits the scheme better. If the Raiders keep 4 running backs, I think it's Jeanty, Mostert, McCormick, and maybe Chris Collier. White had every opportunity to be the guy last year and just didn't deliver. The vision isn't there, the explosion isn't there, and he doesn't bring anything special on special teams. Louisville has more potential as a returner, but is that enough to justify a roster spot when you have other options? The roster math is brutal here. If you keep an extra running back, you have to cut someone else. With the Raiders likely keeping 4 tight ends because of Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer's versatility, plus potentially 9 or 10 offensive linemen because of all the young guys, those extra spots have to come from somewhere. Here's what makes this different from previous years. This coaching staff didn't invest in any of these guys. They're not married to previous